What's up, issue? For today's video, with a final Gambit team. 9 years ago, I did this team, and I'm feeling we can do a revamp for this because quite a few things have changed here. So with Final Gambit, it does damage equal to the amount of health you have, and then the user faints. So in the past, I used Final Gambit 6 times in a row, and that was it. You know, that's all I could do with it. But with the introduction of some new Pokemon and moves here, I could do like a whole bunch of new things here, and I wanted to give it a try. If you're hyped for this thing, team, if you remember watching the very first one, or you want to watch it, I'll leave it in the comment section of the video. Alright, we got a first random opponent here, and Zamazenta and Zangoose are gonna go down. This Zangoose was a max speed, max health set with Final Gambit, and it also had switcheroo on there as well with a ring target for any ghost type Pokemon. So this is pretty funny. I'm going to bring in Chansey. So Chansey obviously doesn't know Final Gambit, but I've made it hold a Choice Scarf and I gave it Copycat. And I was actually able to outspeed some pretty funny Pokemon like Eternatus. And since they've both got so much health, they just got dropped here in one shot, which is awesome. So that is going to be the end. Like, Chansey takes out Eternatus only off Hypnotized Shadow, right? I mean, we should get a like on the video right now just for that. Our next Pokemon here is going to be Necrozma Dustmane. And I also bought Blissey as well. Now, there are some good Final Gambit Pokemon for sure, but I wanted to make some more variety. I just didn't want to bring the same 6 Pokemon, you know? So I'm going to go for Blissey's Final Gambit with that Choice Scarf, with that max health, max speed, and that is easily going to be enough to take out any Pokemon. You know, it's got the most health in the game, right? So you know, outside of like maybe abilities and items and stuff like that, it was taking stuff out. Now, Flamigo was a very good Pokemon for this because it had the ability Scrappy, so this enabled me to hit any ghost type Pokemon with Final Gambit. I also gave it a Choice Scarf as well, so I could outspeed other things. So that is going to be almost enough to take out the Kyurem. I was so close, I was like, oh. So this is the bad thing here, right? With Final Gambit, I need to take out all the Pokemon. So what am I going to do to get around that? I need to bring them back. So Rabscar was the key player on my team here with Revival Blessing. So Revival Blessing, as you know, if you don't know, it brings back a fainted Pokemon. The catch is it only brings them back at 50% health. So that means the Final Gambit is only going to be doing, you know, half the damage it was doing. However, with a rest and sleep talk combination here, even after you've used up the PP on Revival Blessing, you can go to sleep and then go sleep talk and then use Revival Blessing infinitely and keep infinitely bringing back your team and using Final Gambit. So that's why I wanted to give this team another try because it was really, really fun. I have done something like this in the past. I believe I did a Revival Blessing team in the past too with the same sort of thing. So Rabscar is going to be trying to bring back some Pokemon here. The problem is you can still get rest, and that kind of sucks too. So we had this ancient powering Kyurem here, and it got a boost. And this is where I was a bit worried because it could outspeed some, you know, even my Choice Scarf users like Chansey or Blissey and stuff like that. If they got brought back, they were going to get outsped. So I really had to bring some my fastest Choice Scarf Pokemon to maybe outspeed them. So I got a final Revival Blessing off here with the Rabscar. Now you're probably wondering what Terras I ran on this. So some of them were like, on Rabscar I had Terra Normal for any Ghost type moves. Blissey I had Terra Ghost for any like extreme speed Dragonites or fighting moves and stuff like that, but it still wasn't that great because Copycat would then copy the last move and it would fail. So it was quite a difficult team to run just with this strategy. I mean, this was the best Final Gambit Pokemon on my team. I mean, when I actually seen Annihilate at the start when it first came out, I said, man, this is one of the best Final Gambit Pokemon in the game. And it didn't, you know, I only really seen people catching on to using it like a long while after that. So this is the Choice Scarf Annihilate, max health, max speed, jolly nature. It's got 110 base in health and it's got 90 base speed, so it's good. It's also a ghost type Pokemon as well, and I gave it a vital spirit, so it couldn't be put to sleep and other things like that. I also put Terra Normal on there as well. So we finally got rid of the Kyurem. I'm feeling good about this, and watch this, right? They brought in Ogerpon. I was like, oh no, it's Cornerstone. So Cornerstone has the ability Sturdy, right? So I was like, it's going to lift my final Gambit. So even with half health, Blissey still took it down to 1 health, which is insane, right? And Blissey's got a faint, so I'm like, what am I going to do here? All I've got left is Rabska and my Flamigo. Then it used Low Kick, and that gave me an idea. I'm like, my Rabska is holding a Rocky Helmet, right? Because I thought that'd be useful for just doing bits of ship damage and helping out with Final Gambit users that came back after the Revival Blessing with only 1 health. So they went for a Low Kick and they fainted themselves to the Rocky Helmet. I was like, yes, this is good. This is content, right? So with 1 Pokemon now remaining, a .com Pokemon, we got a Chestnut. So I thought, ooh, this could work, right? So I wake up and I get the rest off. Yes, this is really good. So with Rabska, basically gives me unlimited, well, it gives me a quite almost near unlimited amount of Pokemon to sacrifice, right? If Rabska fell early, I was in a lot of trouble too. Now, I did consider doing this with Pawmon as well, but I felt like 1 was enough, otherwise I'd be sort of taking away from the theme team a little bit. I wanted to try and have, you know, as many Final Gambit users as possible. So I went for a Revival Blessing here. I was very, very lucky. Now this Chestnut couldn't touch me at all. Any grass types and fighting types were doing nothing, and they were also injuring themselves with the Rocky Helmet as well, which is going to make my job even easier. The problem is, even at half health, Flamigo wasn't going to be enough, so I needed to bring back multiple Pokemon. And I thought maybe I could bring back Annihilate, and I could even swap into like a Drain Punch and stuff like that. So I've got my health back here. They're going to keep going for Drain Punch. The funny thing is they tried to set up spikes as well, and I was like, that's actually really bad, because if they set up a lot of them, that means when I swap my Pokemon in, they're going to lose health, and then, you know, the Final Gambit won't do as much damage. So I was a bit worried about that as well. So I'm trying to get more. I got pretty lucky there. I got some Revival Blessings off. There were times where I got multiple rests in a row. So I brought back my Pokemon here, and then I brought an Annihilate. I was like, this is perfect, right? I can go for the Final Gambit. Sure, I'll take a bit of Spikes damage, but I can get rid of this. Then they went for a healing move. They went for the Forbidden Healing move here and brought themselves back. I'm like, oh no. But then I went for the Final Gambit and they salty cancers. I guess they figured that they weren't going to win. Eventually, I was going to, you know, defeat them with all the Final Gambits, and I could outspeed them and stuff. Well, that was a crazy battle. Hope you enjoyed that one. All right, let's get on to the second battle here. This is another random battle. Now, I believe I've battled this person before, like in one of, like this random person in one of my videos before. So they had some really good counters on their team, especially because this was quite an easy concept to counter. Unless you brought like, say you brought 6 or 5 Annihilates, I would have had a lot easier time. Or I was allowed to use moves like, you know, U-turn and other stuff. Like, sure, that would have made it easier, but I felt like that also took away from the challenge there too. So Smeagol's going to use Sticky Web. I did think about actually going for a copycat to copycat that and put that web back on the field, but I decided against it. So I'm going to bring in the Zangoose here. This is just going to be a typical sort of Smeagol with Sash, obviously. I've got Final Gambit, which I'm gonna have to sacrifice a Pokemon for 1 HP essentially. Now the Smeagol's gonna go for knockoff, getting rid of my ring target, which sucks. That's for any ghost type Pokemon, which in this case wasn't all that bad. I still had a scrappy Pokemon there, so I felt like I needed 2, you know, in case a scrappy Pokemon failed. Oh, I lost my ring target, something like that. So the battle is quite a shaky start to the battle. I'm thinking, how am I gonna, stay in this? Then they brought in Palafin. Now, Palafin is a very, very big counter to this team, especially any priority Pokemon. there's an abundance of things that can get around this. So they swapped it out. Obviously, they're going to wait for the hero form. So they thought swapping in their Golett was going to be safe. I knew they had a ghost type, but this is why I saved Flamigo, because that was actually enough to take out the Golett, which was really cool, because like normally a ghost type would completely nullify this strategy. So it was cool to have that. That's the only Pokemon that has Scrappy and Final Gambit, which is really cool. And I didn't have that last time. So that's the end of Golett. In comes Orthworm. Now, Orthworm could set up or pass off a Shed Tail. So I was like, I don't want Shed Tail because I'm gonna lose then if Shed Tail's up. I don't think I'm gonna be able to get around that. However, since I had Blissey with a Choice Scarf, it was still enough to actually outspeed Orthworm and take it out, which was absolutely awesome. So I was really pushing him at this point. It was really good. I was like, I wonder how long I can keep this up for. You know, can I bring a few more Pokemon back? How am I going to deal with the Palafin? So we're going to go into Chansey now. I had to take a Chansey here, and we have got Serena coming in. It's like, oh, okay. Now, remember, I do have a Choice Scarf on this set, so I was hoping for a more bulky set with no speed at all. That was my only way to outspeed, and I did. I outsped. I was like, yes, because you know a high jump kick or even some sort of basic physical move is coming my way there. So I managed to outspeed with the Chansey there. Chansey actually lost me a lot of battles too because it was too slow, but I wanted to use both Blissey and Chansey for the challenge. So things are going swimmingly right, but things started to go kind of wrong. So we've got the Hitmonchan coming in here. Now, I was thinking to myself, does this have a dark type move? Does like set up Pokemon as well are an issue, especially against Rabsca, because Rabsca has to take damage, right, to go to sleep to use Revival Blessing. I can initially use one, which is great, but after that, I'm relying on the opponent to do damage to me. Now, I did consider actually giving it an item like, I don't know, Sticky Barb or Flame Orb or something like that, but I was worried about Hex then, you know what I mean? So the item I gave this one was Rocky Helmet. I felt that was the best choice, right? So anyway, this Hitmonchan is setting up lots of bulk ups against me. Why I was going for that too. Now, Hitmonchan does have the ability to attack and sustain as well with moves like Drain Punch. So I was also worried about that. But the only good thing with Rabsca's typing, it was Rock. I had Rocky Helmet, but I also had Psychic and Bug too. So I resisted that, like quad resisted, which is really good. So even with all the bulk ups that they had, they were doing donkeys right. And even the Rocky Helmet was bringing their health back to where it was before, or even a little bit more, you know, depending on the amount of boost they had. So I was like, this is possible, right? I'm pretty sure I can get around this Hitmonchan as long as they don't have any like priority moves. And I thought, well, Annihilate would be good to bring back here because it's a ghost type. You know, if it's got something like maybe Mach Punch or if it doesn't, a fighting type move, I can bring it in, right? The only thing I was a little bit concerned about is it might have Bullet Punch, because Bullet Punch is good on Hitmonchan for coverage against fairy types and, you know, stuff like that too. So I had a plan here. I was like, to take out Hitmonchan, I was confident that I could deal with it. The problem was Palafin, right? Because once that came back in, that's a really bulky Pokemon. It's got lots of health and it's got priority move as well. So I was, you know, very concerned about that. So I thought, I'm going to bring back my entire team here. So I literally sacked off my entire team to Final Gambit, and I was bringing them, like, you can see them coming back, right? Kath absolutely loved editing this, by the way. She's, you know, so loved it. So now we got Thunder Punch here. Thunder Punch is doing good damage, but the great thing about Thunder Punch is the Hitmonchan was not getting health back like Drain Punch was, and I was doing a little bit of damage with the Rocky Helmet too. So that was what I was trying to go for there. So I'm going for some more Revival Blessings here, which is a blessing in disguise, and Blissey came back. I was like, that's good, really good. Now we got the Hitmonchan going for yet another bulk up here. I guess they're really trying to make it that they can one-shot me here. I cannot swap in any Pokemon into this. I just can't. I can't just swap in a Blissey to this. It was to go Drain Punch and get his health back. Do I want to risk swapping an Annihilate again into a Thunder Punch? You know, it was way, way too risky. So I just went to sleep again, and I was practically waiting, not waking. I'm waking up soon, waiting for the Hitmonchan to faint me. So then I could bring in a fresh Pokemon and maybe, you know, try my luck at fainting it then. So I go for another Revival Blessing, and I actually managed to bring back every single Pokemon on my team. It's crazy, right? I was laughing my ass off. I'm like, it's like, what's that? How many Pokemon did I faint? There's like 5. Yeah, five. I think I had 5 faints then, or close to that. And anyway, they're going to try and desperately trying to get some health back before they faint me. They got a little bit back, but Rocky Helmet just deleted that right away. It was a good item choice for that, definitely. Rapscooter is going to be sleeping here, but as you can see, I can't do anything. I didn't press Sleep Talk. I didn't want to waste their time any more than I already did. Right? I was like, just faint me. So they eventually are going to faint me, and Rocky Helmet definitely puts Hitmonchan in that range, which is good. So I've got a couple of Pokemon. I've got Choice Scarf, Annihilate. Annihilate was the pick of the day here. I had the Choice Scarf. I had the Ghost typing, so they couldn't get any health back. That was the idea here. So I went for Final Gamer, and I outspeed. Excellent stuff. So that is the end of the Hitmonchan. But you could see it took me all of that just to get to this point to do that, right? That was the tricky part about it. So that's the end of the Hitmonchan. Last Pokemon now is a Palafin, and I'm hoping that Palafin wasn't going to have a priority move. I mean, even if it didn't, I still had a chance of getting outsped by it too. It's such a powerful Pokemon. Like, what were they thinking? What were they thinking with Palafin? So I've got Copycat. I was like, come on. And they've got Jet Punch, as most of them do. So I actually managed to live that, only because I was running max health. And Flamigo doesn't copy the last move on the field was then Jet Punch. It wasn't Final Gambit. So they pretty much had a mega counter here. And I guess they sort of held that back too, because they wanted to see what all of my sets had and stuff, and then they just simply brought it in. So now they're boosting their stats up again here. They don't really need, at this point I was like, you don't really need to boost your stats up. You can, you know, take my entire team out easy peasy. And I had bulk up then, but you know, maybe in this case, if you wanted to try a more of a competitive strategy with this team, you could give your Pokemon some other moves as well, so they wouldn't get completely countered. But you know, I was doing it fully with Copycat and Final Gambit, you know, the hard mode. Now I did have Ghost on this too, but Ghost really wasn't going to help me too much here unless it had a fighting move, and I didn't think they'd do that. I thought they'd just spam Jet Punch, you know, because that was an easy way to win. So I had a Chansey and Blissey, and I had Zangoose left. So I thought I'll bring in Zangoose. This doesn't have a Choice Scarf though. It has Jolly Nature, but you know, after a Sticky Web, in hindsight, maybe I should have got that Sticky Web onto the field. Let's say I did. Let's say I was able to copycat that Sticky Web from the Smeagol at the start, right? I still would have faced this problem of Jet Punch, you know? The only way I would have got around that is to use Annihilate, like my actual Final Gambit users, and at full health, you know. That might have been the only way to get around it. That's what I thought, you know. That's what I could do. So then I brought in Chansey, and here comes a Jet Punch. Obviously, Chansey is going to faint here. So that's the end of that. Our last Pokemon is going to be Blissey. This is a little bit faster than Chansey. I'll tell you what their base speed is. So Chansey is base 50 speed and Blissey's 55. So it doesn't really get much, you know, it's not the greatest speed stat in the world, even, you know, with a Choice Scarf, right? So I just wanted to show them what Terra I had. It was Terra Ghost for any fighting type moves, and then maybe, you know, maybe Chansey could use that to swap into stuff in the future, but in this case it was a complete counter. So that's the end of the battle, but I wanted to show you guys that not only, you know, this team working, but I wanted to show you it coming up against good counters as well. And I felt like this was an interesting battle to show you the count. They didn't have like 6 counters, they only had 1 really good counter, but it was an interesting battle regardless. Let's get on to battle number 3. This is a random battle. I'm not sure of my opponent's name here, so as usual, if anyone would like to translate the names, that would be absolutely awesome. So first Pokemon's going to be your homeboy Charizard, and we're going to get rid of this with Annihilate. Annihilate, the best Final Gambit user in the game. Easily. Ghost type, good health, good speed. is perfect for her, right? Really, really cool. So that's the end of Charizard. Now, I think is this a .com team? Yeah. Okay, this is pretty funny, right? So out comes the Zapdos. Now, if they weren't running a speedy Zapdos, more of a bulky set, I was like, I can do this, right? I can get the copycat. I can go for the final game. And I did. I was like, yes, because Zapdos is a pain, right? With all the other counters to final Gambit and things like that, you know, there are moves like, you know, Zapdos uses Roost or recovers. That I was also worried about that. They might be able to just Roost stall me away. Or I have to use up, like, you know, 3 final Gambit users to get rid of it. So Zapdos is down, which is excellent. Next Pokemon we're going to bring in is going to be Flamigo. Now, Flamigo versus Miraidon. Miraidon was a nasty matchup because it was very, very fast. So I had Copycat, and Choice Scarf allowed me to outspeed it. But Miraidon's got a nice base amount of health. And Flamigo's health, well, it's okay. So it was probably just enough to take that out. So that was really good. So, you know, max health, max speed, jolly nature. Beautiful stuff there. So Miraidon's down. I'm having a dream battle so far. And then came Arceus. I'm like, oh, maybe. And then I was like, I don't have my Annihilate. I need to deter them. From using extreme speed. So I thought, well, let's see what I could go for Terragostia and then final Gambit. I was like, oh, I'm not gonna waste that. Let's see what they do. They did an E-speed, but Arceus, of course, lived. Only just, though. But the problem is, Arceus had an item. He used Hyper Beam, by the way, which didn't, I think that hit my trainer, and they had leftovers. So even something like leftovers could cause a problem. You probably think, oh, well, you know, it's only got a bit of health left. But remember, all of my Pokemon are virtually gone now. And the fact also remained, once I lost my raw final Gambit Pokemon, and what I mean by that is Pokemon that naturally learned it, like Annihilate and Zangoose, right? And I was left with just copycat Choice Scarf Pokemon. I couldn't do anything, right? So I was forced to bring them back, and then I could use those other copycat Pokemon. That was the big counter to my team, right? And, you know, in fact, just compare me bringing 5 Annihilates along, which I could have done and made it a lot easier, but you guys know me. I like to challenge myself. I like to make things interesting. I like to work, right? All right, so we got this leftovers Arceus, which is very, very bad. So I thought I'll bring in Chansey. I'm not going to take too much damage here. I was checking on the terrain length as well, because remember, Rabscar, if it can't go to sleep, I can't use Sleep Talk and stuff like that. So that was another counter, Miraidon. So I was checking on those turns and hoping that I could maybe live a couple of attacks and bring back Annihilate. You know, that's what I was hoping for. I really needed Annihilate and Zangoose a lot on this team. So here comes an Earth Power. I don't know whether they expected a swap there, but I'm going to go for Rest here regardless. I was worried about Hyper Beam. Because even a special Arceus using Hyper Beam is going to do lots of damage, right? I've used physical. Obviously, physical Arceus is a lot better, but you know, special one can still hurt a lot there too. But it's curious. A lot of them have judgment. So now here comes the Hyper Beam, and look at the damage. That's doing crazy amounts of damage. So I'm like, well, I need to get back Annihilate right now. The only good thing is if they use Hyper Beam, they've got that extra period of rest there. Recharge or rest or recharge on one turn. So that enabled me to get Annihilate back, which is good. But I still had this Arceus was slowly getting its health back. It might not have looked like such a threat at the start, but look, it almost has half its health. So, man, I've got to do something about this, right? I've got to feint this thing before it gets all of its health back. So I went back into Annihilate, hoping I could, take this out here. Annihilate did have an impressive health stat, but Arceus had half its health. So, like, yeah, this is going to be real close. So I went for the final Gambit here, and it was enough to take it out. Thank goodness. So that was great getting rid of Arceus. I thought I may lose there, you know, especially if I lose Rabscar. So that's the end of Arceus. I don't know what happened there. Also, I'm playing on the Switch 2 as well. This is pure Switch 2 content as well. High 60 frames and everything. So this is from now on. I think there's one more older team I've got left, but from after that one, it'll all be Switch 2 content now. It's very, very smooth. So we got a Terra Dragon Palkia. This is a big problem here. So like, well, we'll go for the final Gambit. Let's try. It should be a 2-hit KO. And it was. but I needed my Chansey to outspeed Palkia, and I was a bit sus about that one. So here comes the Draco Meteor. So like, all right, maybe I can bait them into using that. So I needed Rabsca. I thought we'll use Chansey as a special defensive wall, and then I'll bring my Rabsca back in and then try and get some Revival Blessings off or another rest. But they went for Fire Blast on the swap there. It's like, that sucks. But now I know they've got Fire Blast, so I need to draw them out here and use an attack. So since I'm Choice Scarf Copycat, I have to go for the last attack that was used, which was Fire Blast. And, you know, of course it did 1 damage, but something really funny happened. I actually got a burn there, and I looked at the ability again, and it wasn't even Serene Grace. It was a straight up Fire Blast burn on natural cure. So I was like, man, that was really, really lucky. So I was very lucky getting a bit of extra burn here on the Palkia. So there wasn't much I could do. I had Copycat. I was thinking about this for a bit. Like, you know, with Draco Meteor, I was like, I don't really want to feint Palkia with Draco Meteor. That would be against the spirit of my team. But at this point, I had no choice, right? So I allowed myself, if I was completely choiceless, if it was going to mean I'd swap Rabsca and feint it, I could go for the other moves and stuff and then actively try and get my Pokemon back. So anyway, here comes the Thunder from down under, and that is going to take out the Chansey. But a quality performance there by Chansey. Like, I can't believe that. Like, I was so lucky that burn was clutch, right? So like, I'm looking at this, I'm thinking this could be real, this could be possible. So we're gonna bring back in Rabsca. I've got lots of Sleep Talks remaining. I've also got Terra Normal as well, because I smelled a rat. I was like, they're definitely gonna have a run at me with Fire Blast, and that could be very, very bad. So Rabsca's got that Terra Normal, and they went for Fire Blast, and of course it missed that turn. I was like, I didn't even need a Terra, but I guess it didn't matter, right? So now they're like, well, we're probably going to use Draco Meteor this turn. So I'm going for Sleep Talk. I'm hoping and praying, and then I got a rest. I'm like, no. So that really stunk there. That sucks. But I was like, wait. The burn was just enough to take out the Palkia. So I'm like, yes, we're still in this game. We can get this W right. It's still possible. So Rabsca's sitting there. I like how the terrorist, the duel is just sitting there with the, I don't know, whatever that circle is, the dung ball or something. Anyway, so in comes Ceruledge, but Ceruledge had close combat and it dropped my Rabsca. So I was like, damn it. That was the ghost type Pokemon they were holding back the entire game as well. That's why I brought in Zangoose so early and Flamigo, because I thought they'd send it in, but they didn't. So that was quite frustrating they didn't bring that in. Anyway, it was a fun battle. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. Let's get on to battle number 4, I think it is. This is a battle against Leaf, and we have a pretty cool team here. In fact, I have not done this team myself. I may even be bringing it to the channel in a few weeks' time and such. So Pyro outsped me with a Trailblaze, and it fated my Zangoose. Now Pyro actually managed to live that, only just though. So I brought in Flamigo, and I was thinking, well, even if I don't live this or whatever like that, or I take some damage, that could be good. But I was like, wait, I've only got Copycat. So I don't really want to bring Annihilate into that. So I thought, all right, I'll go into Rabsca, I'll bring back Zangoose immediately, and then do that again. And I've also got Rocky Helmet too, which I can use to my advantage. So that is Pyro down. Sometimes that saved me using Final Gambit on a full HP Pokemon. So in comes the Luxray. I'll see if you can guess what the team is, by the way. If you are enjoying the video so far, people, make sure you get that like button to hit. And tell me what you think of Final Gambit. What would you do for Final Gambit? Would you change this move at all? Would you give it to a few more Pokemon? Tell me your thoughts, everything. I love to read comments, people, so give me a comment below there. I don't care what it's about. I like to read my comments. I always do each day. I do try and actively make a effort to read them on all my videos. So we got a special Luxray here, which is especially bad because that Thunder did like a ton of damage to me. So I'm going for Sleep Talk. I really need Zangoose to be brought back, and I got it, which is good, which is very, very good. So I'm going to bring the Zangoose back. It's good to go. Thunder, that's it. That's the end of Rabsca. So now I've got no Revival Blessing. So I thought this would be interesting to show you what happens when I run out of Revival Blessing. So I've got 5 Pokemon left here. and they've got 5 Pokemon. So like, ooh, I don't know what's going to happen here. So I absolutely have to go for Final Gambit there on the Luxray. So Luxray's down and Annihilate's down. So I'm like, okay, this is good. I mean, it's not good that Rabsca's fainted, but it's good that I still have some Pokeball left. So we're going to bring in the Flamigo. Here comes under Necrozma, a Dustmane one. Now, from the battle that I had before, most of these aren't super fast, so I got the Copycat and I got the Final Gambit. I was like, please, I need the W here. And it was not enough to take it out. It's like, no! So it's just got a lot of health, you know. So it's definitely max health. And then he used Meteor Beam, like, uh-oh. So the Meteor Beam, there's got to be a Power Herb set, right? So it's got that special attack boost, and it's got the best use of the Power Herb ever, right? I like to use my Power Herb and then fire it at the opposing trainer. So now we're going to bring in Zangoose. Zangoose has half health left. It's like, well, I'm just going to use it here and use up the final Gambit I have left, and that's the end of the Necrozma there. It's going to faint. And it'll be very, very bad getting hit by whatever that move was coming. So we got Blissey here. Blissey is the 5th Pokemon of mine. And now we've got Solgaleo. So Solgaleo, you might be able to see a little bit of a pattern here. So I've got Copycat. I outspeed. I'm like, yes. It was so funny the amount of times I outspeed like Pokemon. Blissey would never ever, normally outspeed and get some feints there. So Blissey's down, and so is the Solgaleo. So things are going all right so far. They're not too bad. So I've got one more Pokeball left, and that's Chansey. I've got to take a chance on Chansey, So last this is the second last Pokeball, which is Entei. Now, I don't know what sort of Entei set this was at all, but I was hoping I could find it. So there's 2 Pokeball left. So it's like, all right. Clearly, I can't win this battle, but I can still take the Entei with me, If I had my Rabsca, I would have been able to Revival Blessing for the last one, but that would have taken, maybe two of them. But, a lot of these Pokemon, when you look at all these Pokemon, their typings are pretty good for Rabsca, right? So I got the Terra Normal Final Gambit off, and that is going to take an Entei, which is good, thank goodness. So there was only one more Pokemon remaining on that team. I wonder what that Pokemon could be. Can you guess what it was? The clue is, look at the Pokemon that we used there. Anyway, that was a cool battle. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I wanted to show what happened when Rabsca fainted too. I'm trying to give you, there's only so many things you can do with a Final Gambit team, so I wanted to show you all the little battles that I did and how different things panned out and such. All right, last battle here. This was a long battle too. This one is against Super Bowser, back to Troll, and we have got a Klefki lead here. So Klefki, you switcheroo on me. I was like, oh no, what is this gonna be? So that's another thing, Prankster, right? And Annihilate got a Sticky Barb. I'm like, oh no. But I had that Final Gambit and I took Klefki out. So no more Sticky Barb trolling, right? At least for now, right? So Klefki is gone, which is good. Now I was thinking, what's the best Pokemon to swap? It was like, nah, let's go to Chansey, because I'd like to get Chansey out the way because it wasn't that fast. So in comes Enamorus. This is going to be the most disgusting looking Pokemon in the entire deck. Like, real talk or not. I don't know. There's going to be that one person that absolutely adores this Pokemon that's like, typing in the comment section now like, PIMPNITE, you're wrong, man. This Pokemon's beautiful. I would take it out on a date or something like that. I'm probably not that, but you know what I mean. So that's going to be the end of the Enamorus, Demented Turtle Snake thingy. So we're going to bring in Zangoose now. Things are going good. In comes Totodile. I'm like, oh no. This might have a Focus Sash, right? Now, Focus Sash, that was an issue, or Sturdy and stuff like that. So I'm going for the Final Gambit, no Sash. That was great. I was like, yes. So maybe I won't come across a Focus Sash in this team, which is good, because that means I essentially have to bring a Pokemon back, or maybe try and use Rocky Helmet if I can. So bringing in the Blissey now, and we've got Rotom. Like, oh no, it's a Ghost type, right? I've lost my Zangoose. So I can't give it, my Zangoose lost its ring target, so my only hope here is to defeat this with the Scrappy Pokemon, but we have a Terra. I'm like, I bet you this thing is going to have a non-Ghost Terra, and I swapped for nothing, and it had Terra Electric. Like, look, I could have taken the risk, but you didn't know I mean, I wouldn't have terrored the Rotom, right? I never expected the Rotom to terror. So that was very cruel, right? So I thought to myself, I need that either that Annihilate back or one of the other Pokemon. I was thinking about this for a little bit here. That's the thing you got to think about. You got to think about what Pokemon are left and what should you bring back. So the Rotom's gonna have Will-O-Wisp. I was like, could that maybe have Hex or something? And then I got a Synchronize on there. I was like, so that was pretty funny, right? That's why I thought with the Rabsca, Synchronize would be the best, right? Especially for singles. I mean, the other ability is telepathy, so it's useless anyway. But I thought, Synchronize would be very handy in some situations. I didn't try this team out, and I tried it out in doubles a couple of times, but it just didn't work because my Pokemon got like counter targeted and fake. There's so many like moves like fake out and stuff like that. So that's gonna be a nice little rest for my Rabsca. It's gonna be going to sleep. I guess the only good thing it now is an electric type, the Rotom, so I can use our final Gambit on it, and we're getting some quality damage there. So I've got Sleep Talk. Rotom's gonna swap out against my Rabsca, and now we got Servine coming in. You don't get to see Servine very much, so I have no idea what this set is gonna be. I do at least I do resist grass, but I don't know what sort of set it's gonna be. So I'm gonna go for Sleep Talk, and I got Rest. I was like, damn, I hate it when that happens. It's especially unlucky when you've only got one other move to pick from. So you've only got, when you go Rest, you've only got, when you go Sleep Talk, you've only got Rest and Revival Blessing to pick from. So that's going to knock off my Rocky Helmet, which sucks. I guess I got some damage on it though, but I'm assuming this is probably like a bulky Everlight set or a sweeping set, something like that. So I got that Rest and I got that Revival Blessing, which is good because I needed it. So there was Rotom, Servine, and one other Pokemon left. So I swapped out the Rabsca. I had to keep that one safe, from all the Servines, and I brought back in Annihilate. And I was thinking, they're probably not going to use knockoff again, right? But they did. I was like, oh no. And watch this, right? They knocked off the sticky barb. It's like, this is awesome. I got rid of that sticky barb. That's perfect. So then we had a swap. And I was like, what Pokemon is it? And it's the Rotom again. It's like, all right, well, Rotom's going to live this. But at least I got some damage on it rather than, nothing, right? So I was happy with that. So I thought, okay, let's take two here. This time, I'm really gonna use Final Gambit. So I'm not gonna swap out or anything like that. So I went into Zangoose. I'm ready to go. I don't have my ring target, but we got that Terror Electric, right? I've got Final Gambit. I thought, well, there's nothing wrong with this. And then it used Will-O-Wisp, so it outsped me. So that was a good thing that I didn't bring back in Blissey. I don't even think I would have outsped that. Anyway, I went for Final Gambit and I took the Rotom out, but that's going to be the end of Zangoose there. So Zangoose is down. I've got Rabsca and Blissey left, and I've also got Flamigo left as well. I still had Flamigo left. And then we got two more to deal with. So last Pokemon is going to be Prinplup. I'm like, all right, another bulky Everlight Pokemon. That's the good thing about Final Gambit. It ignores all the, it just does raw damage. So I brought back in the Blissey. I'm like, I know that I can outspeed Prinplup. Easy, unless it's got a Quick Claw or it's a Troll set, right? So I've gone for that Copycat. I'm feeling good about this, and I'm gonna get that big Final Gambit damage. And then I knew something with that Focus Sash. So Blissey is gonna die there, and the Focus Sash Prinplup has countered me. So I'm like, damn it. So I've got some options here, but they're a little bit limited. I've got Rabsca, and I've got one other. So I thought, all right, I've got my Flamigo left. I don't want to waste Flamigo, right? Because I need that to take out the Servine. Then the Prinplup is going to... So it's a Protect and Whirlpool set, I guess. So it's a bulky... I'd say it's a bulky... I don't know with Sash. Maybe it's not bulky. I don't know. Like, typically with a Rest and... a Protect and Whirlpool set, you want some bulk. But maybe it's more like a sweeping set. And then it was a mix set. I'm like, what the heck? It's Triple Axle? So it had Triple Axle. So it's like Triple Axle, Whirlpool, and Protect. I have no idea what sort of set. It's like a mixed special sweeping trapping Prinplup. I don't know. Only Optimize channel, right? So I got a nice Sleep Talk Rest there. I love it when that happens. and I'm getting pounded by Triple Axel at the moment. It's good that it's not coming from a Pokemon with good attack, because Rabscar wouldn't like that very much. Oh, I didn't tell you what my Rabscar's EVs were. Let me tell you what they are. 252 in health, 156 in defense, and 96 in special defense with bold nature. This gives it very, very good overall bulk, and maximizes its health as well. So that's what I did for that. I didn't want to make it more like real tanky on the defensive side, but then not so much on the other side. I did contemplate having Cosmic Power on this as well, just for bulk. I thought that could be interesting, Cosmic Power, but I thought that would only be really useful if most of my team would already faint. Like, I'd sacrifice 4 or 5 of my final Gambit users, then I started using Cosmic Power and then brought them all back. But then, Cosmic Power is an extra move on the table then for Sleep Talk to roll. I was like, that's not going to be as fast and as effective, especially if I get really unlucky. And with only 20 minutes on the clock too, yeah, I didn't think there was much point in doing that. So I'm finally going to get a Revival Blessing here at long last, and I'm going to be reviving Annihilate, of course, right? So I've got everything I pretty much need here to take this out. However, I thought I might get one more as a backup, because you never know. You never know. Once I did Final Gambit, I spent about, it was quite a few hours doing this. I put King's Rock on a Final Gambit Pokemon, and then I went for Final Gambit against random people till I flinched them with it. I actually managed to get a flinch on Final Gambit. Like, you wouldn't read about it, I got it. I did like a little, I posted it on my Twitter like a long time ago. Maybe I should put that in a YouTube short or something. Something like that, I don't know. But I actually managed to get a flinch on Final Gambit. It was hilarious. So, and the Pokemon didn't die either. They still lived to see the flinch. So I'm going to bring back in Zangoose here. It's kind of nasty, but I only need 1 health to take this thing out. I've got my Final Gambit, and we're going to take out that Primplop on 1 health, so that's good. So all that's left now is the Servine from earlier on, and it doesn't matter whether it's bulky or not, so I can get around that. And I kept my Flamigo in the back this entire time, so I've got full health on this thing. And I know that I can outspeed it as well. The only problem is if it had, like, say, Protect or something like that. That was an issue if it had Protect, so I'd have to bring back another Pokemon there. So I've got the Copycat, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go for the Terra this turn. After all that time, let's go for it. So we got that Terra Ghost. Terra Ghost on the Flamigo, which looks pretty cool. It's like bobbing up and down like a little ghost. And we're going to be going first with the Copycat and Final Gambit on the Servine. And that is the end of Servine. And that is also the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed this. It was a really fun team to do. If you enjoyed it, if you want to support the channel, hit that like button. Drop me a comment if you're new. Hit that subscribe button, people. And I'll catch you tomorrow for I've got like 3 more videos coming your way this week. Peace out, everyone.